Growing up looking at tourism as a surfer, as a kid, I definitely opposed it. I thought that it was kind of the evil of the community. Tourism is our largest industry in Hawaii. It's growing every year. You know, we live in a beautiful place. It's bound to be commodified and commercialized. Ocean experiences in Hawaii for tourists, it's things like parasailing, jet skiing, thrills, all thrill crafts, not even tied to anything educational or to the conservation of the natural resource that it's in. They just want to relax, they want to enjoy a culture that is authentic, but the brand that we've built up for them of what Hawaii is over here is not, is not the truth. So I kind of put that on our fault here, not on our guests' fault and not on tourism's fault. I grew up always seeing this huge battle between what community's needs and wants were and what commercial activity was. And so I always saw myself sitting on this other side of the room as a part of the community, and the argument that the operator would always have is saying, well, you can't attack what I'm doing because this is my way of life. Aloha, my name is Kino. I am 30 years old. I would categorize myself, I guess, as an apprentice navigator and voyager with the Polynesian Voyaging Society. They created the Hokulea and have been responsible for sailing it and continue to perpetuate that legacy of Polynesian voyaging. Yeah, so I just was really fascinated about learning about my Hawaiian culture through the physical act of sailing and voyaging. Hello, my kako. This is Kino with your sunrise report. Today is... And over the last 10 years, have just been taken into this family of voyagers across all the islands, across the Pacific. Got to do a couple deep sea legs and participate around the world voyage. We would come into places in New York, of all places, coming up the Hudson River, and reach out ahead of time via email, the modern day, ask out saying, can we have permission to come into your waters? We recognize you're the First Nations tribe of here. And this overwhelming response that we got when we arrived saying that we haven't, from these people, we haven't been asked permission to come for 7 generations, 700 years, no one's asked us to come into our waters. And so you see that even though we're this very unique thing from Hawaii, the impact that we can have around the world about enabling others to practice their culture was really special. Seeing that sharing on a large scale, coming home to see, okay, if I'm going to be taught how to be a navigator and all these things in a cultural sense, how do I keep that going through my everyday life? And so I looked at, kind of surveyed what was going on in Hawaii. Tourism was growing rapidly. The thirst for culture was definitely real. In 2020, 50% of our travelers to Hawaii are going to be millennials. They want authentic experiences. They want to be hosted by locals. They rather have an experience than a thing. They generally want to give back. They care about the natural environment and they don't want to degrade it. So I thought about a voyaging canoe. I imagined that what it would be like if I was to take people out in front of where I grew up and just to share with them, example, as a business. So essentially commodifying culture, right? So I started Holokino Hawaii. It's my for-profit business that takes Hawaii's visitors and people from here out on a micro voyaging experience. Just from the Mauna Lua Bay community on the south shore of Oahu, where I'm from, we started with the school kids, bringing a group out about once a month to take them into the wetlands, removing invasive plants, planting natives, getting into the ocean. Experiences that sadly I never had going to public school on the South Shore. Once that kind of got rolling, it felt like, we should show the next generation examples of what can commercial activity look like, because if we're just saying that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, it doesn't spawn creativity. 10 years ago, if you ask, well, what is local food? You wouldn't hear things like farm to table and hear about native Hawaiian foods and how they were traditionally prepared with a board and stone. But it took small business to make it popular, to make it now a way of life again, to become synonymous with the brand that we are in Hawaii. And so really education for me always came through business. Look for a problem in your community that you'd like to solve and see how you could do it through entrepreneurship. Whether you're Hawaiian or not, I think if you love Hawaii, I think then you have every right to be here and to work for change, and you're coming from a positive place and surrounding yourself with a community that's going to keep you accountable. It's a very big lie we've been sold as cultural people for a long time, that if you have an exchange for money and to a certain point that you're selling out. More than anyone, those of us that are carrying on the tradition and should be, able to be leading the industries. There's one thing I can hope to leave for the next generation, especially with young Hawaiian kids or young kids that are interested in cultural things, is that you're not making a sacrifice to go and do these things, that you can have, you should know your value and feel comfortable that your value equates to energy, and in today's day and age, energy is money. And you can control and earn money in a very pono way if you're doing it. And I think that's still a real hard place for a lot of us, and there'll still probably be kickback to this, but that's education. We're exporting it to the world to teach them about what we use here in Hawaii for health and well-being, and economics is just a driver of that.
Waves are rolling in.